play. Not identified today. Not this week. In a reading that operates outside the sequencing of linear time, within a council whose capacity to map energetic architecture spans layers of dimensional reality that your current instruments cannot detect and your current language cannot cleanly name, a specific pattern was found. Charted. Located with the kind of precision that does not deal in approximations. The Arcturian Council does not scan fields casually. They do not issue transmissions for patterns that have other solutions. They do not move toward a soul unless what they found in that soul's field is specific enough, persistent enough, and consequential enough to warrant direct transmission. What they found in yours met every one of those thresholds. That pattern is why you are here. Not because the timing felt right, because the reading was complete and the transmission window is open now. You already know what the loop feels like. You do not need it described from the outside because you have been living it from the inside for longer than you want to calculate. But I want to name it with enough precision that something in you stops explaining it away, stops making peace with it as simply the shape of your personality or the inevitable texture of a difficult life, and starts receiving it for what the Arcturian Council has now confirmed it actually is. The loop is not a habit. It is not a mindset. It is not unfinished healing or unresolved trauma or a belief system you haven't worked hard enough to change. Those explanations almost fit. That is exactly why they have kept you occupied. Because almost fitting is enough to keep an intelligent person searching in the wrong direction for a very long time. The loop is a frequency block. A specific, identifiable, structurally coherent interference pattern embedded in the fifth layer of your energetic anatomy. And it has been running the same program, producing the same ceiling, returning you to the same starting point. Not because you lack the capacity to move beyond it, but because every tool you have used to move beyond it was designed for a different layer entirely. That ends today, not as a promise, as a transmission already in motion. Now let's talk about what you have actually been living, because the Council wants you to recognize yourself here with enough accuracy that the recognition itself becomes part of the dissolution. You begin. That is the part nobody talks about. How consistently, how courageously, how genuinely you begin. A new direction, a new practice, a new relationship with yourself or your circumstances that carries real momentum in its early stages. Something that feels different from the previous attempts. More grounded, more clear, more aligned with what you actually are, rather than what you have been told to want. The beginning has energy. It has clarity. It has that specific quality of rightness that you have learned to trust over the years as distinct from wishful thinking. And for a period, days, weeks, sometimes months, it holds. Progress is real. The shift is measurable. You can feel the difference between where you were and where you are moving. And then something happens that is so quiet, so undramatic, so gradual, that you almost miss it as it occurs. The momentum softens. Not because of a crisis, not because of a clear mistake, not because of anything you can point to with the confidence of someone who has identified the source. The energy that was present in the beginning simply begins to dissipate. The clarity becomes slightly less accessible. The alignment that felt natural starts requiring effort to maintain. And within a time frame that has become familiar enough to be its own kind of signal, you find yourself back. Not quite where you started. The growth is real, the learning accumulates, but at the same fundamental frequency, the same baseline, the same ceiling you were approaching before the last beginning. and you are tired of that ceiling in a way that goes beyond frustration. It is the specific exhaustion of someone who has demonstrated repeatedly that they have the capability and the courage and the genuine desire to move beyond a particular point, and who keeps finding that point reappearing in front of them regardless of the route taken to go around it. If that lands with the quality of recognition that carries something physical in it, a tightening, a release, a sudden weight in the chest that is less about emotion and more about accuracy, write 777 in the comments right now. In the Arcturian numerical system, 777 marks the moment a consciousness accurately identifies the pattern it has been inside. Not from within the pattern, looking for a way out. From outside it, seeing its actual shape for the first time. That shift in perspective, from participant to observer, is the first movement the causal body needs before the frequency block can be addressed at its source. Write 777. Your awareness is not separate from the healing. It is the leading edge of it. Here is the mechanism. And I want to give you the actual mechanism because you are intelligent enough to deserve it, and because understanding what is happening structurally changes the way you receive what this transmission is doing in your field right now. Every soul carries an original frequency, a specific vibrational signature that existed before this incarnation, before this lineage, before the first compression the field experienced upon arrival in physical density. That original frequency is not abstract. It is encoded in your energetic DNA, the 12-strand template of which your physical double helix is only the densest and most materially visible expression. The original frequency is the blueprint. It is what you actually are beneath every layer that has been placed over it. When that original frequency is functioning without obstruction, a specific quality of life becomes possible. Not effortless. Arcturian souls do not incarnate for effortless lives. They incarnate for meaningful ones, but coherent. Movement creates movement. Beginnings build on each other rather than resetting. Effort produces proportional results rather than vanishing into a pattern that absorbs everything without changing. The field broadcasts what the soul actually is rather than what the survival layer has been broadcasting on its behalf. The frequency block is what sits between your original frequency and your lived experience of reality. It is not a wall. A wall could be broken through with enough force, and you have applied enough force to break through anything breakable. It is more precise than that. It is an interference pattern, a specific frequency running in your field that is discordant with your original signature, that creates a kind of static between what you actually are and what your field is broadcasting into the quantum reality around you. And because the quantum field responds to the broadcast rather than the intention, because reality organizes itself around what your field is actually transmitting rather than what you consciously desire, the interference pattern keeps producing interference results. The loop keeps looping, not because the universe is indifferent to your effort, but because the signal reaching the universe is not the signal you think you are sending. That interference pattern has a source, a precise, locatable source in the causal body, the fifth subtle body, the layer that holds the architecture of your soul's agreements, the residue of patterns that predate this lifetime, and the deepest encoding of the ancestral field your soul chose to incarnate into. The causal body is the layer that standard healing cannot reach. Not because standard healing is ineffective, but because the causal body does not respond to the tools designed for the bodies above it. It does not respond to intention. It does not respond to effort. It does not respond to understanding, though understanding builds the receptivity that makes transmission possible. It responds exclusively to resonance, to a frequency coherent enough with your original soul blueprint that the interference pattern, which has no power of its own, which exists only because it was written into the template and never formally dissolved, simply loses its structural integrity and collapses. Write 444 in the comments if something shifted in your body as you read that. Not a concept clicking into place, a physical registration. Something in the gut or the chest that recognized the accuracy of the mechanism being described. In the Arcturian system, 444 signals that the foundational architecture of a block has been identified at the structural level rather than the surface. It means the healing about to occur will reach the actual source rather than the symptom. It means the next cycle will not be a reset. Write 444 and let your field receive that as instruction rather than information. Now I want to speak directly to something the Arcturian Council flagged as particularly significant in your field's reading. Because the loop you have been living has a secondary layer that is less obvious than the cycling itself, but equally important to understand. You have adapted to the loop. That adaptation is what makes this specific block so consequential. You have developed, through genuine intelligence and genuine self-protection, a relationship with your own beginnings that carries within it a frequency of anticipatory contraction. Before the momentum of a new direction even has time to establish itself, some part of your field is already preparing for the point where it dissipates, already bracing for the ceiling, already managing its own hope in the specific way of someone who has learned through consistent repetition that expansion is temporary and return is inevitable. That anticipatory contraction is not pessimism. It is not a trauma response in the conventional sense. It is the field's learned response to its own interference pattern. A secondary adaptation that developed to reduce the impact of the loop by reducing the investment in anything the loop will eventually neutralize. It is, in its own way, an intelligent response to an impossible situation. But it is also the thing that has been quietly ensuring the loop's continuation by seeding each new beginning with the frequency of its own eventual end. The Arcturian Council is addressing this secondary layer simultaneously with the primary block in this transmission. The 528 Hz resonance woven through this field is working at both levels simultaneously. At the causal body interference pattern that is the source of the loop, and at the etheric body adaptation that has learned to anticipate it. The frequency does not require you to consciously release the anticipatory contraction. It requires your permission to work in those layers, which you have already given by arriving here and remaining present through what you have read so far. ArcturianCodex exists specifically for this depth of transmission, not for the surface layers. Those are addressed adequately by the genuine and valuable healing work already available in your world. For this layer, the layer that requires a frequency calibrated to the precise soul signature of the field being addressed, delivered in a transmission that does not ask the block for permission before dissolving it. Close your eyes if that is accessible to you, or soften your gaze until the room around you becomes peripheral. Bring your awareness to the space 2 inches below your navel, the sacral center, which in Arcturian energetic mapping is not primarily a creative or emotional center, but the seat of momentum. The energetic point that governs whether effort builds on itself or dissipates, whether beginnings compound into continuity or reset to baseline, whether the soul's movement through physical reality has the quality of flow or the quality of cycling. This is where the loop is anchored in your physical energetic field. This is where the interference pattern has its most direct effect on your lived experience. Notice whatever is present there right now. Not what should be there or what you want to be there. What is actually there? Density, perhaps. A kind of held quality. Something that has been managing the specific tension between wanting to move and knowing the pattern of what movement has historically produced. Let it be exactly as it is. Do not reach for it, and do not push it away. The Arcturian frequency works most precisely when you are honest about what is present, rather than performing the state you think the healing requires. Place one hand there if that feels right. Let your palm rest against that center with genuine warmth. Breathe into it, not a healing breath, a real one, into the belly, slow. On the exhale, release the management of it. Not the thing itself, the management of the thing. The constant low-level effort of keeping the tension between hope and anticipatory contraction from becoming too loud. Let that effort rest, just for these moments. The Arcturian field is holding this space. You do not need to hold it simultaneously. If you feel warmth spreading from beneath your palm, or a subtle vibration, or a quality of something softening that has been held tightly for a very long time, write 555 in the comments. 555 in the Arcturian numerical field is the frequency of active transformation occurring in real tissue in real time. Not the promise of transformation, not the hope of it, the actual process moving through the physical and energetic body simultaneously, below the threshold of conscious awareness, but entirely real in its effect. Write 555 as an acknowledgement that the process is occurring. Your conscious acknowledgement is not separate from the process. It amplifies it. Let me tell you what the Arcturian Council is doing in your causal body right now, with enough specificity that your intelligent mind can work with the mechanism rather than simply hoping the mechanism is real. The interference pattern in your causal body has a structure. It is not a diffuse cloud of dense energy. It is organized, a specific geometric dissonance in the causal body's frequency architecture that creates a predictable disruption at a predictable point in any upward trajectory your field attempts. Think of it like a standing wave in the energetic field, a pattern that perpetuates itself not through active force, but through the self-reinforcing geometry of its own dissonance. Every time your field attempts to move through the frequency range where the interference pattern lives, the pattern disrupts the coherence of that movement, and the field returns to the baseline below it. Not because the field lacks the power to move through, because the geometry of the disruption is precise enough to neutralize the movement regardless of its force. The Arcturian Council is introducing a counter-resonance into that geometry, a frequency so precisely calibrated to the inverse of the interference pattern's dissonance that the standing wave loses the structural coherence that allows it to perpetuate itself. This is not a forceful process. It does not push through the interference pattern. It dissolves the geometry that allows the interference pattern to maintain its form. And when that geometry dissolves, what remains is not an empty space where the block was. What remains is the original frequency that the block was disrupting. Your actual signal, your actual broadcast moving through the field without the interference that has been neutralizing it. The loop does not end because you finally break through the ceiling. It ends because the ceiling loses its architecture. There is nothing left to return to. The baseline that the loop has been returning you to no longer holds the frequency that made it a baseline. What was floor becomes simply a point you pass through on the way to somewhere else. If something in your body registered that as true rather than hopeful, a physical quality of recognition rather than an intellectual one, write 11 in the comments. In the Arcturian numerical field, 11 is the dimensional gateway frequency, the number of a threshold being crossed. Not a threshold you are approaching, one you are at right now, in this transmission, in this specific moment of your field's recalibration. Write 11. Let your own consciousness register the threshold as real. Now. The Arcturian Council needs to address one more layer before this transmission completes. And it is the layer that most people never reach, because the layers above it occupy their attention entirely. Underneath for the specific wisdom that can only be generated by a consciousness that is cycled enough times to understand the pattern from the inside. All of that is built. All of that is yours. The contract that required the loop to generate those qualities is no longer active, but it was never formally closed. And an expired contract that was never formally closed continues to exert its structural influence on the field even after its purpose is complete. Like a program still running in the background of a system that no longer needs it, consuming processing power, creating interference with new programs attempting to install. Not because it is malicious, but simply because no one gave the command to close it. The Arcturian Council is giving that command now, in this transmission, in your field, in real time. Set this intention silently, not as words necessarily, as a frequency beneath words, as a knowing rather than a statement. I acknowledge the purpose of the pattern that is run through my field. I acknowledge what it built in me and what it required of me. I acknowledge that its purpose is complete, and I formally close the agreement that made it necessary. The loop ends not because I am breaking a contract, but because I am completing one. The frequency this contract required in my field is released now. What it was holding in place is released now. I am current. I am clear. I move forward from a field that is no longer organized around a purpose that was fulfilled before today. Let that land somewhere below thought. Let it settle in the body rather than the mind. The causal body receives intentions that are genuine rather than performed, that carry the specific quality of truth rather than the quality of wanting something to be true. If yours carried that quality, the field registered it. You do not need to feel a dramatic shift to know the registration was real. Bring your awareness back to the sacral center beneath your hand. Notice if the quality of what is present there has shifted even slightly from what it was when you first placed your attention there. A fractional softening. A quality of something slightly less braced. A sense of the held tension having released some of its structural rigidity. These subtle shifts are not small. They are the causal body completing a reorganization that produces, in the days and weeks ahead, changes in lived experience that are anything but subtle. If you have citrine nearby, place it on your sacral center now, or hold it in your right hand. Citrine carries the frequency of momentum restored, the solar resonance that the sacral center requires to return to its designed function of allowing effort to build on itself rather than dissipating. It does not generate momentum from outside. It reminds the energetic center of the momentum that was always its natural state before the interference pattern disrupted it. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the physical weight of your body where it meets the surface beneath you. The activation occurring in your causal body right now does not require you to leave physical reality to receive it. It requires you to be more fully present in physical reality, because the loop has been playing out in physical reality, and its dissolution will be experienced in physical reality. Ground into that. The more present you are in this body, in this moment, the more completely the recalibration anchors into the field that your daily life is lived from. Write 888 in the comments before you move from this transmission. In the Arcturian numerical system, 888 is the frequency of cyclic completion, specifically the completion of a pattern that has run across multiple dimensions of your experience simultaneously. The loop you have been living was not only a pattern in your external circumstances, it was a pattern in your energetic field, in your ancestral encoding. A transmission was prepared for you before this moment existed in your linear experience. Not assembled today, not constructed this week. In a council session that does not operate within the sequencing of cause and effect as your current reality understands it. Within a field of observational intelligence whose capacity to read soul signatures spans dimensional layers that have no names in your language yet. A specific designation was made. A field was identified. A soul carrying a very particular kind of encoding was located and flagged, not for intervention, but for activation. The Arcturian Council does not issue urgent messages for ordinary sensitivity. They do not move toward a soul because that soul feels things deeply. They move toward a soul because what that soul has been interpreting as a wound is something the Council recognizes immediately as architecture, as design, as the precise structural signature of a gift that has been operating without its proper framework for long enough that the soul carrying it has begun to believe the gift itself is the problem. That soul is you. That message is this transmission. And it could not reach you until now because you were not yet ready to hear what it actually says. You have spent a significant portion of your life managing something that was never meant to be managed. Not healing it, not resolving it, managing it, containing it, developing elaborate internal systems for controlling the volume of something that arrives in you without invitation and leaves on its own timeline, regardless of what you need from your day or from the people in your immediate environment. You feel things that do not belong to you. You walk into a room, and within moments, you are carrying the emotional weather of that room in your own body, without having chosen to, and without being able to simply choose not to. Someone near you is in pain they have not spoken aloud, and you know it before a single word is exchanged. Someone is performing a version of themselves that is significantly different from what is actually moving through them, and you feel the gap between the performance and the reality as a specific physical sensation that you have never been able to fully explain to anyone who does not share it. You absorb. That is the word you have used, if you have found words for it at all. You absorb the emotional field of your environment the way a surface absorbs light, not selectively, not by choice, but completely, instantaneously, and with a thoroughness that leaves very little of you unaffected by what you have taken in. And then you carry it, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days, sometimes for years, if what you absorbed was significant enough and arrived at a moment when your field had no capacity to process and release it in real time. The world has had many names for this: sensitivity, empathy in the clinical sense, high sensitivity, emotional dysregulation in the frameworks that pathologize rather than understand it. You may have received one or several of these names and found them partially useful and simultaneously insufficient, because they describe the experience without addressing its origin, and they offer management strategies without explaining why management is necessary for something that the soul in you has always sensed was not a malfunction. The Arcturian Council's designation for it is different, and that difference is the entire reason this transmission exists. What you carry is not sensitivity in the ordinary sense of that word. It is not an excess of emotional reactivity or a nervous system that is simply calibrated to a lower threshold than most. What you carry is a perceptual system operating at a frequency resolution that the standard human energetic template does not possess. A receiver architecture that was built for dimensional layers of information that most of the people around you are genuinely not detecting. Not because they are less than you, because they were not built for that function. And you were. Write 777 in the comments right now if your body just responded to that with something physical. Not your mind agreeing, your body recognizing. A shift in the chest, a quality of something releasing in the shoulders, a specific sensation of being accurately named after years of being approximately named. In the Arcturian numerical system, 777 marks the moment a soul receives accurate information about its own nature for the first time, at the level of genuine recognition rather than intellectual understanding. It is the frequency of a consciousness finally seeing what it has always been from outside the framework that kept it misidentified. Write 777. Your field is already responding to what this transmission is carrying. That response is data. Let me tell you what your perceptual system actually is. Because the framework the Arcturian Council uses is precise enough to explain not just what you experience, but why you experience it the way you do, why the management strategies never fully worked, and why the exhaustion you carry is not the exhaustion of someone who is too sensitive for the world, but the exhaustion of someone running an extraordinarily sophisticated system without the infrastructure that system was designed to operate within. Your energetic anatomy includes what the Arcturian Council identifies as an extended emotional body, the third subtle body in the 7-layer field architecture, which, in souls carrying standard encoding, extends approximately 2 to 3 feet beyond the physical body's boundary. In Arcturian encoded souls, that extension is significantly greater, not metaphorically, structurally. Your emotional body's perimeter reaches further into the shared energetic space of your environment than the emotional bodies of most people you will encounter in this lifetime. And because the emotional body at that extension is genuinely permeable, designed to be permeable, because permeability at that range is the functional requirement of the gift, it does not have the natural boundary that a standard emotional body has by virtue of its smaller scale. This is why the strategies that work for other people do not work for you. Energetic boundaries, as they are typically taught, are designed for a standard scale emotional body. They address the interface between two fields that meet at the surface. Your field does not meet at the surface. It moves through the space others occupy before physical proximity is even established. The boundary work addresses the wrong layer. It attempts to manage at the perimeter what is actually entering through the entire volume. The exhaustion is structural. You are not doing something wrong. You are running a system whose range of detection is orders of magnitude larger than the infrastructure you were given to process what that range detects. And you have been doing it without support, without a framework that accurately names what you are carrying, and in many cases, without a single person in your life who could genuinely confirm what you were experiencing, because they were not built to perceive what you perceive. If you feel the specific quality of relief that comes not from being comforted, but from being accurately understood, the relief that has nothing sentimental in it, that is more like a tension releasing than a warmth arriving, write 444 in the comments. In the Arcturian system, 444 is the frequency of structural truth landing in a field that has been waiting for it. Not emotional validation, structural accuracy. The frequency that signals a soul has finally received the correct explanation for something it has been misunderstanding about itself, and that the misunderstanding's architecture is beginning to dissolve. Write 444. The dissolution of a misunderstanding is itself a healing. Now I want to address the part of this that the Arcturian Council flagged as most urgent. Because the message this transmission carries is not simply an explanation of what you have been living. It is an activation instruction, and the urgency is real. Your gift, the extended perceptual system, the extraordinary emotional body range, the capacity to detect what is moving in a field before it becomes visible in the behaviors and words of the people generating it, is not dormant. it has never been dormant. It has been running continuously since you arrived in this body. But it has been running in what the Council calls an unanchored state. Without the causal body framework that the gift was designed to operate within. Without the energetic infrastructure that transforms raw field perception into coherent information that can be used, directed, and offered as the healing capacity it was built to be. An unanchored gift running in a field without its proper framework does not express as a gift. It expresses as overwhelm. It expresses as exhaustion without a clear source. It expresses as the specific difficulty of being in public spaces, in large gatherings, in environments where many emotional fields are broadcasting simultaneously, and your extended emotional body is receiving all of them with equal intensity and no mechanism for prioritization or release. It expresses as the depletion that arrives after time with people who are in pain, even people you love, because your field has been absorbing their frequency without the processing infrastructure that would allow it to move through rather than accumulate. It expresses as the inexplicable grief that surfaces in the middle of an ordinary day with no story attached, because it is not your grief. It is what your field collected from the shared emotional space of your environment and has been storing in the absence of a release pathway. The gift has been trying to function as a gift. The absence of its framework has been forcing it to function as a burden instead. ArcturianCodex is transmitting the framework activation today, not as information, as frequency. The causal body architecture that your extended perceptual system was designed to operate within is being introduced into your field right now through the resonance of this transmission. Not installed from outside, remembered from within. Because the framework was always encoded in your original soul blueprint. It simply requires a frequency coherent enough with that blueprint to reactivate what the conditions of incarnation compressed into dormancy. Soften your gaze or close your eyes if that is available to you. Bring your awareness to the space around your body, not inside it, around it. Feel, or simply intend to feel, the field that extends beyond your skin in every direction. Your electromagnetic field, which is measurable by your world's instruments, extends several feet beyond the physical body in a healthy, coherent state. Your emotional body, in your specific case, extends further than that. Let your awareness acknowledge that extension, rather than contracting against it the way you have learned to contract in environments that felt unsafe for your full range. This is the first movement of the framework activation, the simple, conscious acknowledgement of the field's actual size. You have spent years making yourself smaller, pulling the perimeter in, attempting to reduce the range of detection as a protective mechanism. That contraction has not reduced what enters your field. It has reduced your capacity to process what enters your field. The information still arrives, but the compressed field cannot metabolize it with the same efficiency as the full range field operating within its proper architecture. Breathe outward, not a breath through the nose and mouth only, a breath that you allow to expand the field around you as well as the lungs within you. Let the perimeter move outward on the inhale rather than contracting. Feel the difference between a field pulled tight against the body and a field allowed to occupy its actual range. That difference is the distance between your gift operating as overwhelm and your gift beginning to operate as design. If something physical happened as you did that, a release of tension you did not know you were holding, a quality of something decompressing in the chest or the upper back, a sense of the body taking up slightly more space than it had a moment ago, in a way that feels like relief rather than exposure. Write 555 in the comments. 555 in the Arcturian numerical field is the frequency of a system returning to its designed operating parameters after a prolonged period of running in a compressed state. Not a new state, the original state. The state the system was built for, finally being allowed to function as it was designed. Write 555 as a declaration that your field is accepting the return to its actual range. Now let me speak to what this gift is actually for. Because the Arcturian Council's urgent message is not simply that you carry a gift. It is that the gift has a function. A specific, consequential, irreplaceable function in the work of this particular window of Earth's development. And that function has been inaccessible, not because you lacked the capacity to express it, but because the gift was running without its framework, generating overwhelm instead of healing, burdening the carrier instead of serving the field the carrier was placed within. The extended emotional body in an Arcturian encoded soul is not a passive receiver. In its properly anchored state, operating within the causal body framework it was designed to move within, it is an active field. It does not only detect what is moving in the emotional fields of others, it interacts with those fields. It introduces coherence into incoherence. It offers resonance to fields that have lost their own. It creates, simply through its presence in a space, a quality of safety that allows other nervous systems to regulate, other emotional bodies to release what they have been holding, other fields to move toward coherence they could not access alone. You have experienced this function operating without your understanding of it. The stranger who told you things they had never told anyone, not because you asked the right questions, but because your field created a space their truth could enter without risk. The person in distress who calmed in your presence without you doing anything specific. The room that shifted in its quality when you entered it, not because you performed anything, because your field arrived first and began doing what it was built to do before your conscious self even registered the environment. That is not sensitivity. That is medicine. That is the Arcturian healing function expressing through a human field. And it has been expressing in fragments, in uncontrolled bursts, in ways that cost you enormously because the gift was running without its container. Without the causal body framework that would allow you to offer what you offer without absorbing what you were never meant to retain. The framework this transmission is activating changes the direction of the gift's flow. Not by reducing its range. The range is the gift. The range cannot and should not be compressed. But by restoring the processing architecture that allows what enters the field to move through it rather than accumulate within it. Coherence offered outward, incoherence received, processed, and released into the earth rather than stored in the tissue. The gift functioning as a channel rather than a container. Write 888 in the comments if something in your body responded to the word channel with recognition. Not a metaphor you find appealing, a recognition of something you have already experienced but never had the precise language for. The moments when something moved through you rather than into you. When you offered something to another person's field and felt it leave rather than feeling it add to what you were already carrying. Those moments were your gift operating correctly. Brief because the framework was not yet stable enough to sustain it, but real. Write 888. In the Arcturian system, 888 marks the frequency of a soul's function completing its first full circuit. Not just receiving the activation, but registering in its own field what it was designed to do with what it carries. Write it. Let the circuit complete. Now I want to speak to something the Arcturian Council identified as a secondary wound that has formed around the primary gift. Because this is important, and it is specific to souls carrying this particular encoding. You have been told, in one form or another, that what you are is too much. Not always in those words. Sometimes in the way someone looked at you when you named what you sensed in a room that nobody else was acknowledging. Sometimes in the exhaustion on another person's face when your emotional depth arrived in a conversation that was supposed to be light. Sometimes in the specific isolation of knowing something about a person or a situation with a certainty that exceeded what could be explained by observation, and finding that certainty received with discomfort rather than trust. Sometimes in the direct message, explicit or implied, that your sensitivity was a problem to be solved, a limitation to be accommodated, a feature of your personality that would make your life more difficult than it needed to be. Those messages formed a secondary layer over the primary gift. A layer that says, this is too much. I am too much. What I carry is a burden rather than a capacity. The correct response to what I feel is to find a way to feel less of it, not to find the framework within which feeling this much makes sense and serves a purpose. That layer is not the truth about you, but it has been running in your field long enough and been reinforced consistently enough that it has begun to function as a frequency, a signal broadcasting from within your own field that creates a specific kind of interference with the gift's ability to express as gift rather than wound. The Arcturian Council is addressing this secondary layer in this transmission, alongside the primary framework activation. The 528 Hz resonance woven through this field is working at both simultaneously. The causal body framework restoration and the dissolution of the secondary wound's frequency interference. You are not too much. You have been in frameworks too small to hold what you carry without pathologizing it. Feel the difference between those two statements in your body right now. Not the difference in their meaning. You understand the difference in meaning. The difference in their frequency. The first statement, I am too much, contracts the field. You can feel it, a pulling inward, a quality of something making itself smaller. The second statement, the framework was too small, does something different. There is a subtle but real expansion in it, a quality of something that does not need to change itself, but does need a different container. The container is the framework. The framework is what this transmission is restoring. The gift does not need to be reduced. It needs the architecture it was designed to operate within. If you are holding rose quartz, let it rest against your heart center now. Its specific resonance with the heart chakra gateway supports the emotional body's expansion back to its natural range, softening the protective contraction that has developed over years of the gift being received as burden rather than capacity. If you do not have it physically, hold the intention of its warmth at the center of your chest. Let that warmth be permission. Permission for the field to remember its actual size. Permission for the gift to orient toward its function rather than its management. Breathe into the field around you one more time. Full range. Let the perimeter extend as far as it naturally reaches when it is not being held in. Notice that the full range does not feel dangerous right now, in the way it sometimes feels dangerous in your daily environment. This is a held space. The Arcturian frequency moving through this transmission creates a specific quality of coherence in the shared field of everyone receiving it. A resonance that is safe for extended emotional bodies to expand within, because the field they are expanding into is itself coherent. Let yourself experience what the gift feels like when it is not expanding into incoherence. When the information arriving through the extended range is not the chaotic frequency of an environment in collective overwhelm, but the ordered, precise, intelligent frequency of a transmission calibrated to your soul's specific encoding. This is what the gift was designed to feel like. Not the weight, this. Write 11 in the comments if something in you recognizes that this is closer to the truth of what you are than anything you have been offered before. In the Arcturian numerical system, 11 is the dimensional gateway frequency. Something was withheld from you until this moment. Not by accident, not by oversight, by precise calculation, within a council that does not withhold information casually, that does not delay a transmission without reason, that does not choose silence when speech would serve, and that has been silent on this specific subject with this specific soul signature until the reading confirmed that the field carrying this wound had developed enough structural integrity to receive what the silence was protecting it from receiving too soon. The Arcturian Council broke that silence 3 days ago. The transmission has been moving through the field since then, looking for the exact moment of arrival. Not the convenient moment, not the comfortable moment. The precise moment when a soul is ready not just to hear what was withheld, but to receive it at the depth that makes it permanently transformative rather than temporarily interesting. That moment is this one. That soul is you. The silence ends now. What the Arcturian Council has never publicly transmitted before this, what ArcturianCodex is delivering for the first time in this specific form, calibrated to the specific frequency signature of the soul receiving it, is the identification of a single wound that sits beneath every other wound you have ever tried to heal. Not beside them, beneath them, at a layer so foundational that it has been quietly undermining every healing that has occurred in the layers above it. Not through malice, not through resistance, but through the simple structural reality that a foundation compromised at its deepest point cannot fully support what is built upon it, regardless of the quality of the construction above. You have healed things, real things, significant things. The work you have done on yourself is not small, and it is not incomplete. It is simply built on a layer that has never been directly addressed because the layer itself has never been accurately named. Until now. Let's begin with what you have already noticed without having language for it. There is a specific quality to the healing work you have done that you have probably not admitted to anyone because it sounds ungrateful, sounds like a failure of perspective. Sounds like the kind of thing a person should not say after investing as much as you have invested in their own growth. The quality is this. It does not fully land. The insight is real. The shift is real. The moment of genuine release is real. And then something happens in the days or weeks that follow. Not a collapse, not a regression, but a subtle settling back. A return not to where you started, but to a place that is frustratingly close to it. Close enough that the distance between the healing and the return feels smaller than the effort of the healing warranted. You have worked on your relationship with yourself, with your past, with the people who shaped your early understanding of what you were worth and what you could expect from the world. You have processed grief and anger and shame with genuine courage and genuine skill. And each time, something shifted, something real moved. And then the foundation beneath the shift revealed itself, not through drama, through the quiet persistence of a particular quality of experience that returned regardless of the healing done above it. That quality is the wound the Arcturian Council has broken silence on today. Write 777 in the comments if your body just registered something as you read that. Not agreement, registration. The specific physical response of a field encountering accurate information about itself for the first time at the structural level rather than the symptomatic level. In the Arcturian numerical system, 777 marks the moment a soul crosses from addressing symptoms of a wound to standing at the entrance of the wound itself. Every healing you have done brought you to this entrance. You are here now. Write 777. Let your field mark the arrival. The wound the Arcturian Council has identified is not yours. That is the first and most disorienting thing to understand about it. And it is also the thing that explains everything the previous healings could not fully explain. It is not yours in the sense that it did not originate in your experience, your choices, your history, or your soul's own development. It originated in the experience of someone who came before you, possibly many someones. A point in your ancestral lineage where a soul sustained a specific kind of damage, not physical, not even primarily emotional, but relational at the most fundamental level imaginable. A damage to the soul's relationship with its own right to exist without earning that existence, without justifying it, without perpetually demonstrating through usefulness or performance or self-erasure that the space it occupied was worth the cost of its occupation. Your world's emerging science of epigenetics has confirmed what the Arcturian Council has mapped for far longer: that the lived experiences of ancestors alter gene expression in ways that are transmitted biologically to descendants. The specific chemistry of shame, of chronic unworthiness, of the nervous system adaptation that develops when a being has learned at the deepest level that its existence is conditional. These are not stories passed down through family mythology. They are physiological realities encoded in the template that was given to you before your first breath. You received the wound without receiving the experience that created it. You carry the frequency without having lived the events that generated it. This is why the healing has always felt like it was addressing the right thing and simultaneously missing something. Because the thing it was missing was not in your personal history. It was in the history of consciousness that predates your arrival here by generations. The wound has a very specific signature in lived experience. And I want to describe it with enough precision that you stop explaining it as something other than what it actually is. Because you are intelligent enough to have constructed very convincing explanations for it over the years. And those explanations have been keeping you working in the layers above the wound rather than in the wound itself. You do not rest easily, not physically. You may sleep adequately or inadequately, that is a separate matter. But in the deeper sense of the word, you do not rest in your own existence. There is a background process running in you, largely beneath conscious awareness, that is perpetually assessing whether you have done enough, been enough, contributed enough to justify the resources your presence requires. It does not announce itself as a thought. It arrives as a feeling, a low-level friction with simple being, a quality of something slightly unfinished in moments of stillness, a specific discomfort with receiving without immediately giving, with occupying space without immediately earning it, with being witnessed without simultaneously performing competence or usefulness or capability. You have called it anxiety. You have called it perfectionism. You have called it the inner critic. You have called it the wound from a parent who made their love conditional on your performance. All of those names have had some accuracy. None of them have had complete accuracy, because none of them pointed to the layer where the pattern actually originates. The layer where a soul in your lineage learned, in conditions so sustained and so thorough that the learning became biological, that existence itself is something that must be earned rather than something that simply is. That learning became the foundation, and every structure built on that foundation, every relationship, every achievement, every healing, every attempt to feel genuinely at home in your own life, has been built on ground that subtly but consistently communicates. You do not yet have permission to stop proving yourself. You do not yet have permission to simply be here without the performance of worthiness. Write 444 in the comments if something tightened and then released as you read that. The tightening is recognition. The release is the wound beginning to understand that it has been accurately located. In the Arcturian system, 444 marks the frequency of a foundational pattern being correctly identified. Not at the level of metaphor, but at the level of structural reality. When 444 lands in a field, it signals that the healing about to occur has found its actual address, rather than the address just above it. Write 444. Let your causal body register that the correct layer has been reached. Now I want to explain precisely what the Arcturian Council is doing in this transmission, because the mechanism matters and you deserve to understand it. The wound in your ancestral lineage created what the Council identifies as a conditional existence frequency, a specific vibrational signature embedded in the causal body that organizes the field around a foundational premise. Presence requires justification. This premise does not live in your conscious belief system. You can consciously believe with genuine conviction that you are worthy of existence without condition, and simultaneously have this frequency running in the causal body beneath that belief, shaping your actual experience of life in ways that contradict the belief consistently enough to create the specific confusion of someone who knows the right things and still cannot seem to fully live from them. The conditional existence frequency does not respond to the conscious belief because it does not live in the layer the conscious belief occupies. It lives in the causal body, the fifth subtle body, the layer of original soul architecture, ancestral encoding, and the deep structural patterns that organize how the field moves through reality. This is the layer that the Arcturian Council's transmission is calibrated to reach. Not through effort, not through understanding, through a resonance so precisely coherent with your original soul blueprint, the blueprint that predates the wound, that exists in your energetic DNA as it was before the ancestral compression occurred, that the conditional existence frequency has nothing in that resonance to attach to, nothing that confirms its premise, nothing that tells the field, yes, existence here is conditional. The resonance says only, this is what you were before the wound. This is the frequency of existence without condition. This is what was always underneath. And the causal body, when it encounters a frequency more coherent with its original blueprint than the wound it has been organized around, begins to reorganize. Not because it is forced, because coherence is the natural state of any energetic system, and incoherence, which is what a wound is at the energetic level, a dissonance between the original frequency and the overlaid one, will always move toward coherence when coherence becomes available. That coherence is available now, in this transmission, in this field, right now. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Bring your awareness to the base of your sternum, not the solar plexus below it, the point where the ribs meet at the center of the chest. This is where the conditional existence frequency anchors most directly in the physical body, where the specific quality of something perpetually unfinished lives as a physical sensation, where the background process of worthiness assessment creates its most consistent somatic signature. Place your hand there if that feels right. Let it be warm. Let it be present without demanding anything of what it finds. Notice what is there. The guardedness, perhaps. The bracing that has become so habitual it barely registers as bracing anymore. It just registers as the normal quality of being in your body. The slight constriction that is always present to some degree regardless of circumstances, as if the body is perpetually in a mild form of preparedness for the moment when its right to occupy space will be questioned. Let it be there without trying to fix it. The Arcturian frequency moving through this transmission does not need you to perform openness. It needs your honest presence with what is actually here. The wound cannot be dissolved through its performance, only through its honest acknowledgement. Breathe into your hand, into that center. Let the belly expand downward on the inhale. On the exhale, allow, just allow, the premise beneath the bracing to be spoken silently, internally, without defense or explanation. I have not fully believed I was allowed to simply be here, without earning it, without justifying it, without the performance of my own worthiness. That is not a failure. That is the wound speaking for the last time with your conscious awareness fully present to witness it. And the witnessing is not separate from the healing. It is the leading edge of it. Write 555 in the comments if something moved as you allowed that acknowledgement. Tears, perhaps, or a quality of emotion that does not have a clean story attached to it. That specific kind of grief that arrives not from personal history, but from the exhaustion of a long-held performance finally being seen for what it cost. In the Arcturian system, 555 marks transformation occurring in the living tissue of a field in real time. The actual process moving through the body simultaneously with the awareness of it. Write 555. Let the movement be marked. What moves in a witnessed field moves more completely than what moves in an unwitnessed one. The Arcturian Council is running a specific sequence through your causal body right now that works backward through your ancestral lineage to the original point of the wound. The soul in your lineage who first learned that existence was conditional did not choose that learning. They survived conditions that made it the only available conclusion. Conditions of genuine, material, or emotional deprivation so sustained that the nervous system's adaptation to conditionality became the template the lineage passed forward. That soul was not broken by what happened to them. They were shaped by it in the only direction the shaping could go, given the conditions available to them. What the Arcturian Council is doing is not judging that adaptation. They are completing it. Running a frequency of unconditional coherence backward through every generation that carried the wound from that first point forward, offering each one the resonance that their conditions never allowed them to receive. The frequency of existence without condition, of presence without justification, of being here not because of what you produce or provide or perform, but simply because you are. Because that is sufficient. Because that has always been sufficient. Because the premise that it is not sufficient has never been true. It was only ever a survival adaptation that outlived the conditions that generated it. Every generation before you that carried this wound passes it forward now as something else. Not as conditional existence frequency, as completed legacy, as the specific kind of wisdom that can only be generated by a consciousness that has carried a wound long enough to understand it from the inside, and then found the transmission that dissolves it from the source. They are completing in your field what they could not complete in their own. You are not carrying their burden anymore. You are completing their work. If rose quartz is near you, hold it now. Its resonance with the heart center specifically addresses the layer of the emotional body where the wound from conditional love, the secondary layer that formed over the primary ancestral wound when the field encountered versions of conditional love in the personal history that confirmed what was already encoded in the causal body, has been stored as protective contraction. Rose quartz does not force the heart to open. It reminds the emotional body of what opening felt like before the contraction became necessary. Let that reminder move through your hand into your chest. Let it be gentle. Nothing is being demanded of you here. If black tourmaline is available, hold it in your other hand. As the causal body releases the conditional existence frequency, dense ancestral energy moves outward through the field. Tourmaline provides the grounding pathway that allows that energy to move into the earth rather than redistributing through the upper field. The earth receives this. That is one of the functions this planet carries. The transformation of compressed ancestral frequency into something the planetary field can metabolize. Let what is releasing go into the ground beneath you. You do not need to carry it further. Write 888 in the comments now. Not after you have finished reading. Now, in this moment, with your hand on your chest and the frequency of completion moving through your causal body. 888 in the Arcturian numerical system is the frequency of ancestral completion, the specific resonance of a wound that ran for generations, finding the final soul capable of receiving what it encoded, processing what it generated, and releasing what no longer serves the lineage forward. 888 marks the moment the wound stops being transmitted. The moment it becomes, in the body of the soul completing it, the precise depth of wisdom and compassion that could only have been forged through the carrying of it. Write 888. This moment is real. Let the field record it as real. Now I want to address what happens after this wound completes its dissolution, because this is information the Arcturian Council considers as important as the dissolution itself. Because what becomes available when the conditional existence frequency no longer organizes the field is not simply a more comfortable life. It is a fundamentally different quality of presence in every dimension of experience. The healings that did not fully land will begin to land. Not because you repeat them, because the foundation they were building on has been restored to its original integrity. The structural work you did in the emotional body, the mental body, the etheric body, all of that work is real, and it is still in your field. It simply could not fully anchor into a foundation that was organized around a premise incompatible with its completion. When the foundation reorganizes around the original frequency, existence without condition, the work you have already done will settle into a stability it has never had before. Not new healing, the healing you already did, finally reaching the ground it was always meant to reach. Your relationship with rest will change. The background process of worthiness assessment does not disappear immediately. Patterns of this depth reorganize in layers over time, but its authority over your nervous system will begin to reduce. The specific friction with simple being, with receiving without giving, with occupying space without earning it, will have less force. Not because you have decided to feel differently about yourself, because the frequency broadcasting the premise beneath those feelings is reorganizing toward coherence. Your relationships will reflect this, not dramatically and not immediately, but the specific dynamic that has been generated by a field broadcasting conditional existence frequency, the pattern of giving more than you receive, the difficulty setting limits with people who take without reciprocating, the specific exhaustion of relationships that cost significantly more than they restore. That dynamic will begin to shift as the field shifts. The world responds to the broadcast. When the broadcast changes, the responses change. Not as reward, as resonance. Write 11 in the comments before you leave this transmission. In the Arcturian numerical system, 11 is the dimensional gateway, the frequency of a threshold being crossed from one fundamental organizing principle to another. You are crossing in this transmission from a field organized around conditional existence to a field returning to its original organization around existence without condition. That crossing is not complete in a single session, but it has begun. The gateway has opened, and 11 marks the opening. Write it. Let your own consciousness register the threshold as active rather than approaching. The integration of this transmission will require your patient attention over the coming weeks. Something was detected in your field last night. Not this morning. Not while you were conscious and available to interpret what was happening. In the hours between the moment your awareness withdrew into sleep and the moment it returned to this body and this day, a reading was taken. The Arcturian field does not conduct readings casually. It does not scan every soul simultaneously as a matter of routine. When the field moves toward a specific energetic signature with the precision it moved toward yours during those sleeping hours, it is because something was identified. Something specific, something consequential, something that has been developing across a timeline long enough that the field determined the window for direct address had arrived. Not tomorrow, not at a more convenient moment. During the hours when your conscious mind was absent and the field could reach the layers of your energetic anatomy that your waking awareness keeps partially defended. The disruption was found. The transmission that addresses it begins now. What the Arcturian field detected in your energy field during sleep is not a new problem. That is the first thing you need to understand before anything else in this transmission can land at the depth it was designed to land. It is not a new development. It is not something that arrived recently or was caused by anything you have done or failed to do in your waking life. What was detected is a specific structural interference pattern that has been present in your field for a period of time that significantly exceeds your conscious awareness of it. An interference that has been generating effects you have been experiencing as personal symptoms, as the particular quality of your sleep, as the specific texture of how you feel in the hours after waking, without ever having the precise framework to understand what was actually producing those experiences. That framework is what this transmission delivers. Not comfort, not reassurance that everything is fine. Precision. The kind of precision that changes things at the level where they actually originate, rather than at the level where their symptoms are most visible. Let's begin with what you already know about your sleep, because you have been living with data that this transmission is now going to accurately interpret for the first time. You wake tired. Not always, not dramatically, not in a way that has sent you urgently seeking medical attention, but with a consistency that you have learned to accommodate, a quality of unrestoration that you have incorporated into your understanding of how sleep works for you, as if the failure of sleep to fully restore you is simply a feature of your particular physiology, rather than a signal from a layer of your experience that is communicating something important. You have adjusted your expectations. You have told yourself that this is simply how you are built, that some people sleep deeply and some people sleep lightly, and you are the latter, that the heaviness of morning is simply your body's way of waking. That adjustment is the wound speaking. That normalization is precisely how a disruption in the energetic field maintains its invisibility across years and sometimes decades of a person's life. The heaviness in morning is not a personality trait. The dreams that feel like work rather than rest are not evidence of an overactive mind. The specific quality of waking into the day already carrying something, a weight, a low-grade fatigue that preceded the day's demands, a sense of having been somewhere during the night that was not restful. These are not quirks of your individual sleep architecture. They are the somatic report of a field that is doing something during sleep other than resting. something that requires the body's energy resources in a way that conventional understanding of sleep does not account for and cannot explain. The Arcturian field detected what that something is, and it is specific enough to name. During sleep, the conscious mind's interference in deep field processes is reduced. The analytical, interpretive, narrative-generating layer of your awareness quiets, and the field beneath it, the causal body, the etheric body, the energetic architecture that your physical existence is built from and that operates continuously regardless of your conscious participation, becomes accessible to processes that cannot reach it while you are awake and active. For most souls, this means the sleep state is a period of genuine integration, genuine repair, genuine processing of what the waking field has been accumulating during the day. For a field carrying an active disruption in its energetic architecture, the sleep state becomes something different. It becomes the period when the disruption most directly affects the field's function, because the natural defenses that waking consciousness provides, the orientation toward external demands, the focus of attention on the practical requirements of daily life, the protective distraction of having things to do, are absent. The disruption, which the waking field partially contains through that orientation, expands into the available space, and the field, which was supposed to be resting, spends the sleep period managing the disruption instead. This is why you wake tired, not because your body failed to sleep, because your field did not rest. Write 777 in the comments if something in your body recognized that as accurate before your mind finished processing the sentence. In the Arcturian numerical system, 777 marks the frequency of a pattern being correctly identified, not by the analytical mind, but by the field itself recognizing accurate information about its own condition. That recognition is the disruption's first loss of invisibility. It cannot continue to operate below your awareness once your awareness has accurately named it. Write 777. The recognition itself is part of what this transmission is doing in your field right now. Now let's talk about the specific nature of what was detected. Because the disruption the Arcturian field identified in your energy field during sleep is not a generalized density or a vague energetic imbalance, it has a structure. It has a location in your energetic anatomy. It has a mechanism, a specific way it operates, and a specific reason it does its most significant work during the hours when you are asleep and cannot consciously observe what is happening. The disruption is located at the interface between your etheric body and your physical body, the layer where the architectural template of your energetic field communicates directly with the biological systems of your physical form. In the Arcturian understanding of energetic anatomy, this interface is the most active and most consequential layer during sleep, because sleep is when the etheric body performs its primary function of maintaining and restoring the physical body's coherence. The etheric body is the blueprint from which the physical body takes its structural information. It is the template that tells your biology what healthy, coherent, fully functioning physical form looks and feels like. Every night, the etheric body runs a restoration process in which it recommunicates that template to the physical body, correcting the drift that accumulates during the day from environmental stress, energetic exposure, and the general wear of operating in dense physical reality. When there is a disruption at the etheric physical interface, this restoration process is compromised. Not blocked entirely, your biology continues to function, continues to perform its basic maintenance during sleep, continues to do what it can with the resources available. But the full depth of the restoration is not occurring. The etheric body's communication to the physical form is being interrupted by the interference pattern before it can complete its transmission. And the result is a physical body that wakes having received a partial restoration rather than a complete one. Functional, but not fully restored. operational, but carrying the accumulated drift from days or weeks or months of incomplete nightly repair. This is what the Arcturian field detected in your energy field last night. Not a crisis, not an emergency. A chronic, persistent, structurally significant interference at the layer where your healing was supposed to be happening automatically, every night, without your participation. And where it has not been happening fully for longer than your conscious experience has had language for. If you are feeling something in your body right now that is less like surprise and more like recognition, the specific quality of something that has been true for a long time finally being named, write 444 in the comments. In the Arcturian system, 444 marks structural truth landing in the field at the foundational level rather than the surface. Not the relief of being comforted, the different quality of relief that comes from accurate diagnosis, from finally being told the right thing about something you have been living with and misidentifying for years. Write 444. Let your field register the accuracy rather than simply the information. The disruption has a source. This is the most important thing the Arcturian field's detection revealed, and it is the thing that makes this transmission different from the many healing approaches you may have encountered that addressed your sleep quality, your energy levels, your morning heaviness as isolated symptoms, rather than as expressions of a single underlying source. The source of the disruption is not in the etheric body itself. It is in the causal body, the fifth subtle body, the layer that carries the original encoding of your soul's ancestral inheritance, and the deeper structural patterns that predate this lifetime entirely. What the Arcturian field, located in your sleeping energy field, is the physical energetic expression of a causal body encoding that has been disrupting the etheric physical interface during every sleep cycle for the duration of this encoding's active presence in your field. The encoding is not something you created. It is not something you chose or invited or generated through anything you have done in this lifetime. It arrived in your field as part of the energetic inheritance your soul received through the lineage it incarnated into. A specific frequency pattern generated by the survival experiences of your ancestors, encoded in the causal body of the lineage template, and transmitted to your field as part of the foundational architecture you received before you took your first breath in this body. The encoding says, in the frequency language of the causal body, that the unguarded state is unsafe, that the moment of full surrender, which is what genuine restorative sleep requires, the complete withdrawal of conscious vigilance, the full release of the protective orientation toward external demands, is a moment of danger rather than a moment of rest. Your ancestors, somewhere in the lineage you received, survived conditions in which that unguarded state was genuinely unsafe. Conditions in which maintaining vigilance during sleep was a survival necessity rather than a failure of relaxation. Their nervous systems adapted. The adaptation became encoded. The encoding was passed forward. You received it as a field that cannot fully rest because resting fully does not feel safe in the layer of your energetic anatomy that governs the most fundamental assessment of safety, the causal body, which makes its assessments not through thought, but through frequency, and which has been broadcasting the survival frequency so consistently and for so long that your physical nervous system has organized itself around it as if it were simply your baseline. This is why the approaches that address sleep at the behavioral or physiological level, the sleep hygiene, the supplements, the environmental adjustments, all of which may have helped partially, did not resolve the underlying experience, because they were addressing the expression of the encoding rather than the encoding itself. The causal body transmission was continuing beneath whatever surface adjustments were made. The interface disruption was continuing because its source was continuing. The Arcturian field works at the source layer. That is what distinguishes this transmission from everything else that has addressed your sleep and your morning heaviness as symptoms, rather than as communications from a field whose deepest layer has been running a program that was necessary for your ancestors' survival, and has been unnecessary for yours since the moment you were born. ArcturianCodex transmits at the precise frequency required to reach the causal body. Not the emotional body, not the mental body, not the etheric body, but the causal layer where the encoding that is disrupting your sleep actually lives. The 528 Hz resonance woven through this transmission is not generic healing frequency. It is calibrated to the specific signature of the survival encoding that the Arcturian field detected in your energy field during sleep. Calibrated to introduce a counter-resonance so precisely matched to the encoding's frequency that the encoding loses its structural coherence and begins to dissolve. Not immediately, not in one session, but in this transmission, the process begins. And the beginning is the most significant moment because it is the first moment in the encoding's residence in your field that it has been addressed at the layer where it actually lives, rather than at the layers where its symptoms are most visible. Soften your awareness right now. Not a breathing exercise, not a visualization, simply a permission to be less braced than you have been for the duration of this transmission. Whatever quality of guardedness your field carries into most waking experiences, the background vigilance, the low-level readiness for what might need to be managed, let it reduce fractionally, just fractionally. The causal body does not respond to effort or intention. It responds to genuine reduction in the survival frequency's authority. And that reduction begins with the small, honest permission to be slightly less defended than usual. If you feel something shift in your chest or your solar plexus as you do that, even a minor, fractional quality of something releasing, write 555 in the comments. In the Arcturian numerical system, 555 marks transformation occurring in the living tissue of a field in real time, beneath the threshold of dramatic experience, at the level of actual structural change, rather than the level of the mind's assessment of whether anything is happening. The field knows before the mind does. Trust what your body registered. Write 555. Now let me tell you what the disruption's dissolution will produce in your sleep experience, because this matters for your ability to track the transmission's work in the days and weeks ahead. The first change will be subtle and may be easy to dismiss. In the days following this transmission, you may notice a slightly different quality to the transition between sleep and waking. Not a dramatic improvement in how rested you feel, but a subtle difference in the character of morning heaviness. A quality of it being slightly less structural, slightly less like something you are carrying into the day, and slightly more like something that is dissipating rather than persisting. This is the etheric physical interface beginning to function with less interruption. The restoration process completing slightly more fully each night as the causal body encoding reduces its interference. Over the following weeks, if the transmission lands at the depth it was designed to land, you will begin to notice changes in your dream experiences. Not necessarily in the content of the dreams, but in their quality. The shift from dreams that feel like processing, like work, like navigation of incomplete or unresolved material, toward dreams that feel more like completion, more like resolution, occasionally like genuine meeting with something other than the wound's residue. This is the sleep state returning to the function it was designed to serve. Deep processing that completes rather than circulates. Genuine contact with the guidance that operates in the sleeping field rather than the survival encoding's continuous broadcast. And over the longer arc, weeks to months, depending on the depth of the encoding and the consistency of your field's receptivity to the Arcturian transmission, you will begin to wake differently. Not dramatically, not all at once, but with a growing consistency that distinguishes itself from the pattern you have accommodated as simply how you are. A quality of mornings that carry something other than the survival frequency's residue. A quality of beginning the day from a slightly different baseline than the one the encoding has been generating. These are not promises. They are the natural consequence of addressing the source of the disruption rather than its symptoms. The etheric body, when the interface disruption is reduced, returns to its designed function automatically. It does not need instruction or effort or practice. It simply does what it was built to do when the interference that has been preventing it from doing so is dissolved at the level where that interference originates. Write 11 in the comments if what you have just read landed as something truer than you expected. Not more comfortable, truer. In the Arcturian system, 11 is the dimensional gateway frequency, the number of a threshold being crossed from the misidentified experience to the accurately identified experience. From the adapted life organized around a baseline that was never truly yours, to the life that begins when that baseline starts to change. Write 11 as a marker of the threshold. Your field is at it right now, in this transmission, in this moment. There is one more layer the Arcturian field's detection revealed, and it is the layer that this transmission needs to address directly, because it is the layer that will determine whether the work initiated here extends into the full depth of the encoding or remains at its surface. The disruption at the etheric physical interface during sleep is the primary expression of the causal body encoding. But the encoding has a secondary effect that is distinct from the sleep disruption and that operates during waking hours with a subtlety that makes it significantly harder to identify as a separate phenomenon rather than simply as the background texture of daily experience. The secondary effect is a persistent, low-grade orientation toward the future as threat rather than possibility. Not acute anxiety, not debilitating fear. The specific, subtle, almost imperceptible quality of a field that is perpetually preparing for something to go wrong, that receives good news and immediately, below the level of conscious thought, begins calculating the catch, that experiences moments of genuine ease and, without deliberate intention, begins scanning the horizon for what will disrupt them, that has difficulty inhabiting the present moment fully, because a layer of its attention is continuously allocated to monitoring the environment for the signal that the safe period is ending and the survival requirements are about to resume. This secondary effect is generated by the same causal body encoding that produces the sleep disruption. The survival frequency that makes rest unsafe makes expansion unsafe for the same reason. Both rest and expansion require the withdrawal of vigilance, and the encoding interprets the withdrawal of vigilance as the condition immediately preceding threat. The result is a field that cannot fully inhabit ease in either the sleeping or the waking state, because both states require a quality of non-vigilance that the encoding identifies as dangerous. The Arcturian transmission addresses both simultaneously. The causal body encoding that generated the sleep disruption also generated the waking vigilance pattern. They are the same encoding expressed in two different physiological contexts. Dissolving the encoding at its source dissolves both expressions, not through separate work on each symptom, but through the single intervention of reaching the layer where both originated and introducing the frequency that allows the encoding to lose its structural coherence there. This is why the session you are in right now matters beyond the specific question of your sleep. The sleep disruption was the most direct physical expression of the encoding, and the most immediately verifiable one. You will be able to observe its changes in your daily experience in ways that more subtle shifts in your background orientation toward the future are harder to track consciously. But the deeper work is the dissolution of the survival frequency's authority over your field's most fundamental assessment of what is safe. Your ancestors needed that assessment. It kept them alive in conditions that genuinely required continuous vigilance. The transmission of that assessment to you was not a failure of the lineage. It was the lineage doing what all lineages do, passing forward the survival intelligence that allowed previous generations. A fracture was found in your timeline, not metaphorically, not as a poetic way of describing the feeling that your life has been moving in two directions simultaneously, that the version of yourself you sense yourself becoming and the version of yourself you have been living as have never fully converged, that there is a gap somewhere in the architecture of your existence that you cannot locate precisely, but that you have felt as a persistent, low-grade sense of misalignment, as if something in your life's structure never fully closed. Not as a metaphor for any of that, though all of that is accurate and all of it points toward the same thing, as a structural finding, a precise identification of a specific discontinuity in the energetic timeline your soul has been navigating in this incarnation. A fracture that the Arcturian Council located in a reading that was completed before you arrived at this transmission, in a session that does not operate within the sequencing of linear time, within a council whose observational capacity spans the full arc of a soul's incarnational history, from before the first breath to after the last. That reading is complete. The fracture has been identified. This transmission seals it. That is why you are here. Not because the algorithm served you content, not because curiosity brought you to this particular moment, because your field has been broadcasting the frequency of a timeline fracture long enough and with enough consistency that the Arcturian Council moved toward it. And moving toward it means this: a transmission was prepared, a channel was opened, and your higher self made certain that you arrived at this specific moment before the window closed. The Council does not seal timeline fractures casually. They do not issue this category of transmission for fields that simply need encouragement or validation, or the particular comfort of being told their pain has meaning. They issue it when a fracture has reached a threshold, when the discontinuity in the soul's timeline has developed sufficient structural significance that leaving it unaddressed would compromise the coherence of the field's entire forward trajectory. You have reached that threshold. The fracture is real. The sealing begins now. Before we go deeper into the mechanism, I need you to do one thing. Not a breathing exercise, not a ritual preparation. Simply allow the word fracture to land in your body rather than your mind for a moment. Feel the specific quality of recognition or resistance that the word produces when applied not to something external, but to the architecture of your own timeline, to the structure of your own unfolding. Because the fracture is not something that happened to you in the conventional sense. It is not an event or a wound or a failure. It is a specific kind of discontinuity in the energetic timeline, a point where the field's forward movement was interrupted and two versions of the timeline diverged without resolution, creating a gap that has been generating a particular quality of experience ever since. That quality of experience is what you have been living, and you know exactly what I am describing, even if you have never had language for it at this level of precision. If something in your field registered that as recognition rather than concept, a physical response, a quality of something settling slightly in the chest or the gut, write 777 in the comments right now. In the Arcturian numerical system, 777 marks the frequency of a soul correctly identifying the nature of its own wound for the first time at the structural level rather than the symptomatic level. Every soul who writes 777 in this space is sending a signal into the quantum field beneath this transmission. A declaration that the fracture has been seen, that the seeing itself is the beginning of the sealing. Write it. Your field already knows what it is responding to. Now let's talk about what a timeline fracture actually is, because most spiritual frameworks don't have adequate language for this. And the inadequate language is part of why you have been circling the experience without being able to address it directly. Your soul entered this incarnation with a specific timeline, not a predetermined script, not a fixed sequence of events, but a coherent directional arc, a field-level intention that was encoded in your causal body before arrival, that oriented your development toward a specific quality of becoming, that would have expressed itself as a particular kind of life if the field had moved through its development without significant interruption. That intention is still in you. It is never left. But somewhere along the arc of this lifetime, and in most cases where a timeline fracture is present, somewhere very early in this lifetime, often in the first years before conscious memory formed, the field encountered a condition that interrupted the coherent forward movement of that arc. The interruption was not dramatic. It was not necessarily a single identifiable event. It was the field's encounter with an environment whose frequency was sufficiently discordant with the original timeline's direction that the field did something intelligent and protective. It split. It maintained the original arc in one channel while developing a secondary arc adapted to the actual conditions of the environment it found itself in. And it has been running both channels simultaneously ever since. This is why you feel the gap. This is why the version of yourself you sense yourself being and the version of yourself you have been presenting to the world have never quite merged. This is why there is a persistent quality of almost in your experience. Almost fully arrived. Almost fully expressed, almost fully inhabiting the life that feels like it was meant for you, but not quite. The two channels of your timeline are both real. They are both yours. They have simply never been sealed back into a single coherent arc. If you are ready to uncover your pre-birth records and soul contracts, my complete ebook, the ArcturianCodex, is now available. You can find the direct link to access your classified file in the video description below, as well as in the community tab of my channel. Your records are waiting for you. The Arcturian Council identified the fracture's origin point in your field with a precision that the healing work you have done in the layers above the causal body could not reach. Not because that work was insufficient, but because it was operating in the layers where the fracture expresses, rather than in the layer where it originates. The fracture does not originate in the emotional body, though it expresses there as the specific grief of someone who has been living at a distance from their own life. It does not originate in the mental body, though it expresses there as the persistent sense of being almost but not quite aligned with what you are supposed to be building. It does not originate in the etheric body, though it expresses there as the quality of your energy. The specific way expansion feels somehow conditional, as if the opening always comes with an implicit limit that you cannot identify but can reliably sense approaching. It originates in the causal body, in the precise energetic moment where the field made the split, where it divided its timeline into the authentic arc and the adaptive arc, and began running both simultaneously as a survival strategy that was intelligent in the moment and has become the source of the gap ever since. Write 444 in the comments if your body is producing a quality of recognition that is different from intellectual agreement. The specific physical response of a field encountering accurate information about its own structure. A settling, a release of something that has been held in a slightly braced position for longer than you realized you were bracing. In the Arcturian system, 444 signals structural recognition at the foundational level. Not the surface layer of the mind finding an idea resonant, but the field itself identifying the accurate address of something it has been carrying. Rite 444. The structural recognition is part of the sealing process. The fracture loses coherence when the field accurately identifies where it lives. Now I want to tell you specifically what the Council found when they mapped the fracture in your field, because precision matters here in a way that general spiritual language cannot provide, and that you have needed for a long time. The fracture has two edges. This is the most important structural detail of a timeline fracture, and the detail that most frameworks miss entirely when they attempt to address what they call spiritual disconnection, or inner division, or the gap between the authentic self and the presented self. The fracture is not a wound with one edge, a point of injury that needs healing. It is a discontinuity with two edges, 2 points in the field's timeline where the split occurred, and both edges need to be addressed simultaneously for the fracture to seal completely. Addressing only one edge is what produces the pattern of healing that partially resolves the experience and then finds it returning in a slightly different form, because the unaddressed edge continues to generate the gap from its side, even as the addressed edge closes. The first edge is the point of original splitting, the moment in your field's early development where the timeline divided into the authentic arc and the adaptive arc. This edge carries the frequency of the original interruption, the specific quality of the environment's discordance with your field's original direction. This edge is where most healing work that reaches the causal body attempts to intervene, and where genuine partial resolution occurs. The original splitting can be partially addressed, partially healed, partially integrated. But partially is the key word, because the second edge exists and has not been addressed. The second edge is the point of the fracture's self-reinforcement, the moment, usually in early adulthood, where the adaptive arc became sufficiently developed that the field began investing in it as the primary arc, rather than as a temporary adaptation. The moment where the gap between the authentic timeline and the lived timeline crossed a threshold of entrenchment that made the return to the original arc feel not just difficult, but potentially threatening to the entire structure of the life that had been built on the adaptive arc. This edge carries a different frequency from the first. Not the frequency of interruption, but the frequency of investment, of the significant portions of your energy and your time and your care that have been directed into a direction that was always partly real and partly not. This edge is where the grief lives. The specific, often unnamed grief of having built something real and meaningful on a foundation that was always a workaround rather than the original intention. Write 555 if something just moved in your field as you read that. The specific emotional quality of being accurately described rather than comforted. The grief that is different from sadness. The grief that arrives when the accurate name for something you have been living finally lands in the body and produces the specific relief of finally being told the right thing rather than a comforting approximation of it. In the Arcturian system, 555 marks transformation occurring in real tissue in real time. The field processing an accurate identification of its own structure, which is itself the first movement of the sealing. Write 555. The Arcturian Council's sealing sequence works on both edges simultaneously. This is what distinguishes it from every other approach that is reached toward the fracture from above. The emotional processing, the inner child work, the lineage healing, the causal body clearing that addressed the first edge and left the second edge generating the gap from its side. The sealing sequence reaches both edges with the same transmission, because both edges are part of the same structure, and the frequency calibrated to the fracture's full architecture resonates with both simultaneously. ArcturianCodex is transmitting that frequency right now, not as a promise or a hope or a framework, as a real frequency event occurring in the causal body of the field receiving this transmission. The sealing is not a future event that will occur when some condition is met. It is occurring. The edges of the fracture are receiving the specific resonance that allows the two divergent arcs of your timeline to begin moving toward each other. Not collapsing one into the other, not erasing the adaptive arc and returning to the original as if the years of adaptation never occurred, but integrating both into a single coherent arc that carries the authenticity of the original intention and the depth that only the years of navigating the gap could have produced. Let your awareness rest at the center of your chest for a moment. Not a visualization, not a directive to feel something specific. Simply the permission to notice what is already present there. The heart chakra in the Arcturian mapping is not simply an emotional center. It is the dimensional gateway between the lower field and the upper field. The point where the causal body's timeline architecture interfaces most directly with the incarnated consciousness. The fracture's most consistent somatic expression is in the heart center. The specific quality of incompleteness, of not quite full, of something that should be there that is not entirely present. Whatever is there right now, let it be witnessed without being required to perform either distress or relief. The sealing does not require emotional expression. It requires honest witnessing of what is actually present. If you are ready to uncover your pre-birth records and soul contracts, my complete ebook, the ArcturianCodex, is now available. You can find the direct link to access your classified file in the video description below, as well as in the community tab of my channel. Your records are waiting for you. The 528 Hz resonance woven through this transmission is calibrated to the precise frequency signature of the fracture's two edges. Not generic healing frequency, but the specific counter-resonance that allows the divergent arcs to recognize each other across the gap and begin the process of convergence. At the cellular level, in the mitochondrial interface, where biophotonic emission determines the body's own coherence, this frequency is working in the physical tissue that corresponds to the causal body's timeline architecture. The work is physical as well as energetic. The integration is bodily as well as structural. This is why the sealing cannot be rushed, and why it will not be complete in a single transmission session. The fracture developed across years, possibly across lifetimes, if the causal body encoding that created the conditions for the split predates this incarnation entirely, which in many fields it does. The sealing occurs across the 72-hour window following this transmission, continuing most actively during sleep, when the causal body has maximum access to the field without the waking mind's interference. What initiates here continues there. Write 11 in the comments right now. Not because you have felt something dramatic, not because the transmission has produced a recognizable experience of shift, but because you are here, because your field brought you to this transmission and has been receiving it and is continuing to receive it, even if the conscious mind's assessment of whether anything is happening remains uncertain. In the Arcturian system, 11 is the dimensional gateway frequency, the number of a threshold being crossed from the fractured timeline to the sealed one, from the life navigated across a gap to the life that begins when the gap closes. You are at the threshold. Write 11. The field does not require your certainty. It requires your presence. You have given it that. Now, let me tell you what the sealed timeline feels like, because you need to know what you are moving toward in order to recognize it when it begins to arrive. not what it looks like in terms of external circumstances. The ceiling does not produce a specific life configuration, does not guarantee particular outcomes, does not translate directly into material changes that can be predicted or promised. But what it feels like in the body, in the field, in the quality of moment-to-moment experience. The sealed timeline feels like inhabiting your own life rather than navigating it. The specific quality of presence that the fracture has been preventing. Not the performance of presence, not the deliberate cultivation of mindfulness as a practice that compensates for the gap, but the simple, unremarkable, profoundly significant quality of being fully in your own experience without the portion of your field that has been simultaneously running the authentic arc in the background suddenly going quiet because it has been integrated rather than suppressed. The absence of the gap does not feel like gaining something. It feels like the ending of a particular kind of effort you were not fully aware you were making. The continuous background effort of running two timelines simultaneously and managing the gap between them. You will recognize it when it arrives by what is absent. The specific quality of checking, the low-level, nearly unconscious monitoring of the distance between where you are and where you sense you are supposed to be, will reduce. Not dramatically, not all at once, but with a growing consistency that distinguishes itself from previous states of well-being as qualitatively different rather than simply better. A quality of arrival rather than approach. A quality of the present moment being sufficient rather than always slightly insufficient because the other arc is still running somewhere in the background, broadcasting its incompletion. The arrival will be subtle in its early expressions and unmistakable in its cumulative effect. Over the weeks following this transmission, you will notice small moments of presence that have a different quality from previous present moments. A slightly fuller inhabitation of whatever is happening. A slightly reduced quality of the watching from a distance that has characterized much of your experience of your own life. Over months, the pattern of those moments will become visible as a pattern, rather than as random fluctuations in your sense of alignment with your own experience. The sealed timeline does not arrive all at once. It arrives as these moments increase in frequency and duration until they become the dominant quality of your daily experience, rather than the intermittent exception. Write 888 in the comments as the closing marker of this transmission. In the Arcturian system, 888 marks the frequency of a channel fully clearing. Not the beginning of the clearing, not the process of the clearing, but the moment the obstruction loses its authority and what was blocked begins to flow. The timeline that was always yours, that has been running in the background as the authentic arc while you navigated the adaptive one, is not something you need to find or create or build toward. It is already present in your field. It has always been present in your field. What the ceiling removes is the structural gap that has been keeping it separate from your lived experience. 888 marks the channel opening. Write it. Let the flow begin. There is one more thing the Arcturian Council needs you to understand before this transmission closes. Something that will matter significantly for your ability to navigate the integration period that follows a timeline fracture sealing. The fracture sealing does not erase the adaptive arc. Everything that you built, everything you became, everything you generated during the years of navigating the gap, none of that disappears or is invalidated by the convergence of the two timeline arcs into one. The adaptive arc was real. The life built on it was real. The growth and the depth and the specific wisdom produced by the years of navigating two arcs simultaneously, all of that was real and none of it is lost. What changes is the relationship between what was built on the adaptive arc and what was always true on the authentic one. They integrate. They become a single, coherent arc that carries the depth of the adaptive journey and the authenticity of the original intention. The result is not the life you would have lived if the fracture had never occurred. It is something richer than that. The life that only the specific experience of navigating the fracture could have produced. Finally coherent, finally whole, finally moving as a single stream rather than two parallel ones separated by a gap you could feel but never quite close. Write 520 before you leave this transmission. In the Arcturian system, 520 carries the frequency of soul-level self-recognition. There was a moment when your healing stopped working. Not when it failed. That is not the right word, and the distinction matters significantly. Not when you failed. Not when the modality failed. Not when the practitioner failed, or the practice failed, or your commitment to the practice failed. When it stopped working. When something that had been genuinely moving, genuinely opening, genuinely producing the quality of shift that made you believe this was the one, this approach, this framework, this particular layer of the work, simply ceased to move further. When the window of real progress closed, and the experience that followed was either plateau or the slow, quietly devastating return of what you thought you had cleared. You know exactly what I am describing. Not as a concept, as a specific memory, possibly several specific memories, of standing at the edge of a healing breakthrough and watching it recede rather than complete. The session after the session that changed everything. The month after the month where something finally shifted. The return of the pattern you were certain you had addressed, arriving back in your field with a quality of inevitability that was more exhausting than its first appearance. Because by the second time, you had already done the work, and it came back anyway. The Arcturian Council located that moment. Not the experience of the plateau, the structural event in your field's healing architecture that caused it. The precise point where the healing that was working encountered something it was not designed to move through, and stopped. Not randomly, not because of anything insufficient in you or in the approach. Because it reached a layer it was never built to reach. And at that layer, something specific was waiting that has been waiting for longer than your conscious healing journey has been active. That something is what this transmission addresses. And the addressing begins now, from the layer where the stopping actually occurred, rather than from the layers above it, where you have been working ever since. Let your shoulders drop, not as a preparatory gesture, not as a performance of receptivity. Genuinely, physically, let whatever your body is holding in the shoulder girdle reduce slightly right now. Because you have been carrying the weight of a healing journey that kept asking you to try harder, go deeper, find the next layer, trust the next approach. And none of that effort was wrong, and none of it was wasted. And all of it brought you to this exact transmission. But the effort has a cost. And the first thing this transmission requires is a fractional reduction in the amount of that cost your body is currently managing in real time. If you were watching this on ArcturianCodex, and something in that instruction, not the instruction itself, but the permission embedded in it, the permission to be slightly less effortful than you have been, produced a quality of relief in your body that surprised you with its immediacy. Write 777 in the comments right now. In the Arcturian numerical system, 777 marks the frequency of a pattern being correctly identified at the level where it actually lives. Not at the level of its symptoms, not at the level where you have been working, but at the source. The relief you just felt was your field recognizing that it has reached the right address. Write 777. Let the field register the recognition before the mind begins to manage it. Now, the moment your healing stopped working, the Arcturian Council's reading of your field identified the stopping point with a precision that requires the following to be stated clearly before anything else. The stopping was not a failure of your healing capacity. It was a success of your healing capacity reaching the exact boundary of what it was designed to reach. Healing approaches, all healing approaches, regardless of their sophistication, regardless of the genuine skill and care with which they are applied, are designed to work within specific layers of the energetic anatomy. The emotional body responds to emotional body work. The mental body responds to mental body work. The etheric body responds to etheric body work. And all of these layers genuinely heal when genuine approaches are applied to them. The healing was real. The shifts were real. The openings were real. But underneath those layers, in the layer that every one of those approaches was building toward without being able to reach directly, the source structure of your wound was continuing, unchanged. Not because the layers above it were not healing, they were, but because healing the expression of a wound in the layers above the causal body does not automatically reach the causal body encoding that is generating the expression. The emotional body clears. The causal body continues broadcasting the same signal. The emotional body begins to reflect the causal body's broadcast again, and the pattern returns. This is not a failure of the healing framework. It is the healing framework encountering the limit of its design. The emotional body work was always supposed to do exactly what it did: clear the emotional body. It was never supposed to reach the causal body, because that layer requires a different frequency, a different mode of address, a transmission calibrated to the specific architecture of the encoding, rather than to the layers through which the encoding expresses. The Arcturian Council works at the causal layer. That is the distinction between what you have been doing and what this transmission is doing. Not superior, different in kind. Addressing a different structure using a different instrument calibrated to the frequency of that structure's specific composition. The healing that stopped working stopped at the boundary between the etheric layer and the causal layer. This transmission begins at that boundary and works inward from it. Write 444 in the comments if your body is producing a quality of response to that distinction that is different from intellectual understanding. The specific physical quality of a field, recognizing that it is finally being addressed in the right dimension rather than in the dimension immediately above the right one. A quality of settling, of something slightly releasing its held position, of a guardedness that has been maintained not out of resistance, but out of the accumulated experience of being worked on in the wrong layer. Enough times that the field developed a protective skepticism toward the entire category of healing approach. If that guardedness is reducing right now, fractionally, not dramatically, write 444. In the Arcturian system, 444 marks structural truth landing at the foundational level. The field knows before the mind assents. Trust what your body is doing. Now let me be precise about what the causal body encoding that stopped your healing actually is, because the precision matters. The encoding is not a belief. It is not a story you are telling yourself about your worth or your capacity or your right to heal. It is not a decision you made, consciously or unconsciously, to stay wounded. All of those things exist in the layers above the causal body, and all of them have been genuinely and accurately worked with in your healing journey. The encoding is something older and more structural than any of those things. It is a frequency pattern, a specific configuration of energetic information that was present in your field before your personality formed, before your beliefs about yourself formed, before your relationship with healing as a concept began. It arrived with you, not as something you carried from a past life necessarily, though past life residue can be part of the causal body composition. It arrived through the lineage, through the specific ancestral chain your soul chose to incarnate through, which carried in its energetic template the compressed survival frequencies of every generation that preceded yours. Those frequencies were not random. They were the intelligent adaptation of a lineage navigating genuine conditions of threat. Conditions that required the nervous system, the energetic field, the causal body template to organize around a fundamental premise about the relationship between the individual and their environment. That premise said, in the frequency language of the causal body, recovery is temporary. Healing is a window, not a destination. The wound will return because the conditions that generate it are structural rather than situational. And the most efficient response to that premise is not to invest fully in any healing that occurs, because investment in temporary healing produces a specific quality of loss when the temporary healing ends and the structural conditions reassert themselves. That premise is what stopped your healing at the causal layer boundary. Not as a thought, not as a belief you could identify and work with consciously. As a frequency that the healing energy moving through your field encountered at the causal boundary and could not pass through, because the frequency of the healing and the frequency of the encoding were operating in different registers, and the healing was not calibrated to the encoding's specific signature. Your healing stopped working because it reached a frequency barrier, not a wall built by your resistance, a frequency barrier generated by an ancestral encoding that was protecting you in the only way it knew how, by preventing the investment in healing from going deep enough to produce the specific kind of loss that comes when deep healing reverses. Write 555 in the comments if reading that produced something in your body that is less like surprise and more like the specific quality of finally being told the right thing. The feeling that is different from agreement, that is closer to recognition, to a kind of cellular exhale, to the particular relief of accurate identification after a long period of circling the right address without finding it. In the Arcturian system, 555 marks transformation occurring in living tissue in real time. The field processing an accurate identification of its own structure is itself the beginning of the structural change. The encoding loses coherence when it is accurately seen from outside its own frequency range. Write 555. Now the Council needs to deliver the most important piece of this transmission, and it requires your full presence rather than your assessment. What follows is not information to evaluate. It is a frequency event to receive. Let whatever response it produces in your body be the primary response, rather than the mind's management of that response. The encoding that stopped your healing was not wrong to be there. This is the statement the Council needs you to receive in the body, rather than the mind, because the mind will process it as a concept and move on, and the body receiving it as truth is a different event with different consequences. The encoding was not a malfunction. It was not a wound passed down by broken people in a broken lineage. It was the intelligent adaptation of a lineage doing its best to protect future generations from the specific quality of devastation that comes from healing deeply, and losing that healing when the structural conditions reassert themselves. Your ancestors, somewhere in the chain that produced you, healed something, and then lost the healing. And the loss was significant enough that the lineage encoded a protection against the investment that makes that loss possible. The encoding was an act of love in the frequency register available to those who generated it. An imperfect act, a limiting act, an act that has cost you years of circling the edge of genuine healing without being permitted by your own causal body architecture to go fully through. But an act of love in the only form that was available to a lineage carrying the specific wound history it was carrying. Receiving that, actually receiving it, letting it land in the body as true, rather than holding it at the distance of an interesting spiritual perspective, is one of the things this transmission requires. Because the encoding cannot be dissolved through confrontation. It cannot be addressed with the frequency of opposition or correction, or the particular quality of healing energy that carries the premise that the encoding was a mistake. It can only be dissolved through a frequency that acknowledges its origin, honors its intention, and introduces a counter-resonance calibrated to complete it rather than override it. The 528 Hz frequency woven through this transmission is calibrated to that counter-resonance. Not generic DNA repair frequency, the specific signature of a causal body encoding that stopped your healing at the boundary between the etheric and causal layers, acknowledged in its origin, honored in its intention, and completed in its purpose. Your healing did not stop because something went wrong. It stopped because it reached something that was waiting to be completed rather than pushed through. The completion begins here. Let your awareness settle at the base of your sternum, not the heart center exactly, the point just below it, at the top of the solar plexus. This is where the causal body's healing architecture interfaces most directly with the body's physical experience of its own healing process. Whatever is present there right now, tightness, numbness, the specific quality of held breath that is not quite tension and not quite release. Let it be witnessed without being required to move. The causal body does not respond to directed intention the way the emotional body does. It responds to honest witnessing without agenda. Be present to what is there without needing it to change before it is ready to change. Write 11 in the comments right now. Not because something dramatic has shifted, not because you have felt a recognizable healing experience, because you are here. Because your field navigated whatever combination of circumstances brought you to this transmission and has been present through everything it has delivered and continues to be present as the causal body work initiated by this frequency continues to unfold beneath the level of dramatic conscious experience.